Well, I don't know the FBI director. Never met him. So my relationship is what we see or hear as you do.
Right.
He's never spoken to him, not once. 6 months into the most watched missing persons case in the country, and the man leading the investigation just admitted on camera that he has never had a single conversation with the FBI director overseeing his own task force. Let that sink in. 6 months, thousands of leads. A joint task force between local homicide detectives and federal agents. And the two men at the very top of it all. Total strangers, I need you to feel this before I go further, because this isn't a small detail. This is the sheriff himself, Chris Nanos of Pima County, Arizona, telling a reporter, quote, "I don't know the FBI director. Never met him."
Not only just with respect to this case has he never had a conversation with Cash Patel, he said he's never met Cash Patel at all, which again was just very surprising.
Well, it's this case only that makes me surprised about that.
That's not an oversight. That's not a scheduling conflict. That's a wall. And here's where it gets worse. Because you think, okay, maybe they just haven't crossed paths. Except the FBI director was physically in Tucson. He met with the very team working this case. The president himself went on Air Force One and said they were close to a resolution. So somebody was talking to somebody, just apparently not the two men actually running the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Who told the president they were close? Why would the sheriff and the FBI director, publicly sparring in the media, never once pick up the phone? So let's back up, because you need the full picture here. Nancy Guthrie vanished back in February. Her home became a crime scene. There's a porch camera, a mystery man investigators call Porch Guy, and a family, the Guthries, related to a national news anchor, thrust into a nightmare with no end. Within just 36 hours, the sheriff released the scene. Told the public there was, quote, "nothing to see here, no cause for alarm." And then, later, called any suggestion that decision was rushed silly. Ask yourself why a man who once admitted the scene was released too soon would turn around and mock the very idea.
Mess. And that is within 36 hours he released the scene. He said there's nothing to see here. There's no cause for alarm in the community. And you know, we've stopped the search for Nancy Guthrie. And I thought, what the heck were you thinking? Did you press him on those early decisions and whether he now recognizes that they were all really bad decisions?
That's not a broken system. Actually, let me rephrase that. That's a system protecting itself. And that brings us to the first thing this sheriff will not tell you. There is DNA, unknown male DNA, found inside Nancy Guthrie's home. DNA that doesn't belong to anyone in her circle. Could be the killer, could be nothing. For months, all we heard was it's a mixture, it's complicated, except mixed DNA doesn't take 6 months to sort. We solve mixed DNA cases in far less time than this every single day. So what is actually happening with that sample? The sheriff won't say, not directly, not
Here's
fully.
how we put it.
We're doing all of it. And
Okay.
that's really the labs are doing it all. They're looking at genealogy, but they're also looking at specific pieces of evidence that they're hoping to get enough codi to say, this is who we're looking at.
Okay, let's pick the pace back up because there's more. When pressed, the sheriff finally admitted they're doing forensic genetic genealogy, the same slow, painstaking method used to crack the Golden State Killer case decades after the fact, fanning out to hundreds, maybe thousands of people who share a fragment of that DNA. That's not a quick fix. That's years, potentially. Let that sink in too. A family waiting on hope measured in years. Now walk with me through the people in this story because each one adds a crack in this foundation. The sheriff himself admits he's never met the FBI director, admits the task force has quietly shrunk since day one, even as he insists the core team remains. Shrunk to what? He won't say. Savannah Guthrie's family. The sheriff says if they believe Nancy is alive, so does he.
I believe that I'm going to support the Guthrie family every way possible. And if they believe she's alive, so do I.
But then admits when asked directly that he hasn't spoken with the family recently. Not recently. 6 months in, and the man overseeing the search for a missing woman doesn't have a current line to her own family.
Listen.
Well, our relationship is a good relationship. I mean, these are tough times. But no, I've not spoken with Savannah recently. She has my contact number, as you and the rest of the world seems to have. But she's very gracious, and she doesn't need to contact the sheriff. She needs a team that she's very well aware of that works with her, and she's in contact with them at any moment.
Isolated, that's the word that keeps surfacing here. A family isolated from the process meant to bring their daughter home. The brother-in-law. Early in this case, investigators towed his car and his wife's car and held them for over 2 months.
I have wondered early and often if they focused on the wrong thing too early and too hard.
Yeah.
Early, his guys told me that they had their prime suspect, and it was the brother-in-law. They towed the car of the brother-in-law and his wife, Annie, and they kept it for over 2 months.
Sources say he was the prime suspect. And you have to wonder, while all that attention went there, was anyone still watching for Porch Guy, the Mexican tip? A tip came in about a possible burial site tied to a search group that's helped uncover dozens of unmarked graves before. Serious people, bona fide investigators. And by the sheriff's own account, when asked if they engaged further with Mexican authorities, he seemed almost confused by the question. What does more even look like, he asked. Somebody in charge of the investigation should already know the answer to that. I don't know exactly what it is about that moment, but it got under my skin more than almost anything else in this interview. Now stop for a second, because underneath every headline, every contradiction, every declined answer, there is a real woman, a real family. Savannah Guthrie is not a talking point. Nancy Guthrie is not a plot twist. These are people whose lives have been frozen since February, waiting for a phone call that never comes. And that's what makes the next part so hard to sit with. Because stack it all up. The scene released in 36 hours. The sheriff who's never met, the man overseeing federal involvement, the DNA that's been sitting for months with no public update, the family the sheriff hasn't spoken to, the tip from Mexico that seemingly went nowhere. This isn't one mistake. This is a pattern, a system that protects its own optics before it protects the truth. Ask yourself who benefits from all this silence. Because here's the thing this audience already knows in their gut. The system isn't broken by accident. It's built this way, and it works exactly as intended for the people inside it. So let's circle back to where we started. He's never spoken to him. 6 months in, and the sheriff of Pima County has never had a single conversation with the FBI director tied to his own task force. Now you know why that should terrify you. Because if the two most powerful people in this case aren't even talking to each other, who exactly is coordinating the search for Nancy Guthrie? And we still don't know what that DNA fully reveals. We still don't know why the Mexico tip never got followed up the way it should have. 2 threads still hanging 6 months later. Was the brother-in-law ever really the wrong lead all along? Why has this sheriff never picked up the phone? What is he protecting, and who? I don't have those answers. Maybe you do. Drop your theory in the comments, because somebody, somewhere, knows exactly what happened to Nancy Guthrie, and it's time this system started acting like it.